The Phoenix orbital station hung like a jeweled pendant against the nebulous backdrop of the Cygnus constellation. Its crystalline architecture captured and refracted starlight into prismatic patterns across its surface, concealing the solemn purpose it served. Within its hallowed chambers, the Supreme Council of Galactic Justice convened the Court of Planetary Judgment, an assembly that would determine the fate of entire civilizations. In the Grand Central Chamber, 13 immense seats formed a perfect circle around a holographic display platform. 12 of these seats were occupied by imposing figures from across the galaxy, beings of varied anatomies and evolutionary paths, yet united in their stern adherence to the celestial penal code. The 13th seat remained conspicuously empty, its obsidian surface etched with glowing script that read simply, "Earthlings only." Leora Tran glided through the docking bay, her earth-blue legal robes billowing behind her. She clutched a crystalline data cube close to her chest, the embodiment of Principle Zero, Justice Has a Heart, humanity's most controversial legal doctrine. As the first multiplanetary attorney of human origin, she carried not just her personal convictions, but the weight of her species' legal philosophy. "You're cutting it dangerously close, Counselor Tran," remarked a mechanical voice beside her. Kane Valoris, a quantum intelligence housed in a sleek humanoid form, fell into step with her. His crystalline eyes shifted through spectrums as he processed information at quantum speeds. "The Quran hearing begins in 17 minutes. The High Judge Zath Kal does not appreciate tardiness." "My shuttle was delayed by dark matter storms," Leora replied, quickening her pace. "Has the Council released the full charges against Cora?" "Unwarranted resistance," Kane stated flatly. "The planetary governing body rejected implementation of predictive justice algorithms. They claim the right to judge their own citizens." Leora's expression darkened. "And for this, their entire civilization stands trial?" "The code is absolute," Kane responded, his voice modulating to a lower register. "Rejection of unified justice protocols is classified as civilizational rebellion under Statute 7.3.2. As they approached the massive doors to the council chamber, Leora paused. "Kane, what's the current sentiment among the judges?" The quantum intelligence's face remained impassive, but his voice carried a subtle warning. 11 of 12 judges have already indicated preliminary votes for immediate extinction protocols. Only Judge Aronzod remains undecided. "And the Earth seat remains empty," Leora murmured. "Yes, many find it peculiar that humanity insists on maintaining a seat yet rarely sends representatives to occupy it." The massive doors parted with a whisper of displaced air, revealing the circular chamber beyond. 12 judges from across the galaxy turned their attention toward the human attorney. High Judge Zath Kal, a Lockroth with dual-lobed brain structures visible beneath translucent cranial membranes, regarded her with 4 coldly analytical eyes. "Counselor Tran of Earth." The High Judge's voice resonated with harmonic undertones. "Your species' punctuality continues to disappoint. The trial of Cora has commenced." Leora bowed deeply. "My apologies to the Council. I invoke humanity's right of intervention in all capital system cases." A ripple of disquiet moved through the assembled judges. Zathkal's upper brain lobes pulsed with increased activity. "Once again, Earth asserts its peculiar privilege," the High Judge stated. "One might question why humanity insists on maintaining its seat on this council while simultaneously challenging our most fundamental procedures." "Not challenging, Your Excellence," Leora replied carefully. "Complimenting, Earth's perspective offers balance to the Council's wisdom." "Balance implies inequality," countered Judge Malvor, a gaseous entity contained within an environmental suit. "The code is mathematically perfect. It requires no emotional balance." Leora approached the empty Earth seat but did not sit. Instead, she placed her hand on its cold surface. "I stand before the Council as Earth's advocate in the matter of Cora. Before voting commences, I request full disclosure of evidence and the right to present alternative sentencing recommendations." High Judge Zathkal's 4 eyes narrowed simultaneously. Granted, though I note your continued reluctance to occupy your rightful seat, Counselor, perhaps you would also like to share the contents of that data cube you clutch so protectively. Leora's fingers tightened around Principle Zero. This contains relevant precedents that I may introduce at the appropriate time. Very well. Zathkal gestured to the central platform. The planet Korra stands accused of civilizational rebellion through rejection of standardized predictive justice protocols. The evidence is transparent. The holographic display activated, showing a lush green world with 2 moons. Data streams surrounded it, highlighting governmental communications rejecting the implementation of algorithmic judicial systems. Planetary Representative Nayeli of Korra was given 3 standard cycles to reconsider, continued Zathkal. They maintained their position that their cultural emphasis on rehabilitation over prediction was non-negotiable. Leora stepped forward. May I question the Quran representative? They have chosen to represent themselves. Zathkal replied, Nayeli of Korra, present yourself to the council. From a side chamber emerged a tall, willowy figure with iridescent skin that shifted colors with their emotional state. Currently, their epidermis displayed patterns of deep blue determination overlaid with purple apprehension. I speak for Korra, Nayeli stated, their melodic voice carrying throughout the chamber. We do not reject justice. We reject the premise that an algorithm can predict criminal intent before action. Leora addressed them directly. Your civilization has an alternative justice system? We do. Nayeli's skin rippled to a more confident emerald. For 12,000 years, our society has employed empathic adjudicators who work with potential offenders to address the root causes of harmful behavior before it manifests. Inefficient and unreliable, interjected Judge Zortil, a silicon-based life form. Your recidivism rate is 3.4%, while predictive algorithms achieve 0.02%. At what cost? Nayeli challenged. The predictive system identifies and neutralizes individuals based on probability alone. Many who would never commit crimes are nonetheless punished. Irrelevant. Zathkal dismissed. The greater good is served through maximized safety protocols. Leora seized her opportunity. With respect, Your Excellence, I submit that this fundamental question, whether potential harm outweighs actual harm, lies at the heart of why the Earth seat exists on this council. The chamber fell silent. Zathkal's brain lobes pulsed more rapidly. Explain yourself, Counselor. When the Galactic Council was formed, humanity was granted a permanent seat precisely because our species' evolutionary path produced a unique perspective on justice. We understand both the allure of perfect security and its inherent dangers. Leora walked the perimeter of the judge's circle. Earth's legal history is filled with examples of predictive systems that became tools of oppression rather than justice. Ancient history, dismissed Judge Malvor, modern algorithms are perfect. No algorithm is perfect when predicting sentient behavior, Leora countered. I request permission to introduce evidence that Korra's empathic system actually produces more stable societal outcomes over generations than predictive models. Granted, Zathkal said with reluctance evident in their harmonic tones. Though I note your continued avoidance of Principle Zero, which I am told is contained in that data cube. Leora felt the weight of the crystalline object in her hand. Principle Zero will be presented when necessary, Your Excellence. Over the next several hours, Leora methodically presented evidence of Korra's peaceful development, their consistent diplomatic relations, and their internally stable society. She highlighted the philosophical foundation of their justice system, that understanding and addressing root causes produced more lasting harmony than preemptive punishment. In conclusion, she stated, I submit that Korra's rejection of predictive algorithms does not constitute rebellion, but rather represents a valid alternative approach to justice that achieves the same goal through different means. Zathkal's expression remained unreadable. The council will now vote on the matter of Korra. Judge Aranzad, as the only undecided member, you shall cast the first vote. Judge Aranzad, a being composed of interwoven energy strands, pulsed thoughtfully. I find myself moved by Counselor Tran's arguments. While I have always supported the code's uniformity, perhaps there is wisdom in permitting cultural variations that achieve the same end. I vote for clemency and ongoing observation rather than extinction. A murmur of surprise rippled through the chamber. The Zathkal's disapproval manifested as a subtle harmonic dissonance in their voice. Noted, however, the remaining votes stand at 11 for implementation of extinction protocols. With humanity abstaining as usual, the vote carries. No, Leora interjected firmly. Humanity does not abstain. I vote against extinction. You have not taken the Earth seat, Zathkal pointed out. Without doing so, you cannot cast an official vote. Leora turned to face the obsidian chair that had remained empty throughout the proceedings. For generations, human representatives had advocated from beside it but never sat upon it, respecting an ancient taboo whose origins had become obscured by time. With deliberate steps, she approached the seat. As Earth's appointed representative, I claim humanity's vote. She sat down. Instantly, the chair illuminated with threads of blue light that traced complex patterns across its surface. A sensation of weightlessness overcame Leora as the chair interfaced directly with her consciousness, accessing her memories, values, and legal knowledge. Interesting, Zathkal observed. The first human in 73 years to activate the Earth seat. Your vote is recorded, though it changes nothing. The sentence stands at 11-2. I invoke Section 4.9 of the Council Charter, Leora declared, her voice steady despite the disorienting connection with the ancient seat. In cases where extinction is the proposed sentence, unanimous consent must be achieved unless the dissenting party can be proven to have compromised motives. Zathkal's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. You would delay justice with procedural technicalities. I am ensuring that justice is actually served, Leora countered. Unless you wish to formally accuse Earth of compromised motives? A tense silence filled the chamber. Such an accusation would trigger a full investigation into Earth's legal standing on the Council, something no judge had dared to initiate in centuries. Very well, Zathkal finally conceded. The extinction sentence is suspended pending further evidence. Cora remains under probationary observation. This session is adjourned. As the judges filed out, Leora remained seated, feeling the ancient chair continuing to probe her consciousness. Cain Valoris approached, his crystalline eyes shifting through analytical spectra. You've made a powerful enemy today, he observed quietly. High Judge Zathkal does not appreciate being outmaneuvered. Leora nodded, finally rising from the Earth seat. As the connection broke, she felt a momentary sense of loss. Some things are worth the risk. Cain, 11 billion sentient beings will sleep more peacefully tonight. For now, the quantum intelligence cautioned. But I've been analyzing Zathkal's behavioral patterns. This matter is far from resolved. What do you mean? The High Judge has scheduled an emergency session for tomorrow. The subject? Earth's continued qualification for Council membership. Leora's grip tightened on the Principal Zero cube. Then we'd better prepare our defense. Later that evening, in her assigned quarters aboard Phoenix Station, Leora reviewed ancient legal texts projected in holographic form around her. The Principal Zero cube sat on her desk, its crystalline facets occasionally pulsing with ruby light. A soft chime announced a visitor. Enter, Leora called, dismissing the holographic displays with a gesture. The door slid open to reveal Nayeli of Cora, their skin now a calm, grateful blue. Counselor Tran, I come to offer my people's deepest gratitude. The reprieve may be temporary, Leora warned, gesturing for them to sit. Tomorrow, Earth's own standing on the Council will be challenged. Because you defended us, Nayeli stated, their skin shifting to a regretful purple. We never intended to bring such trouble to your species. The trouble has been brewing for generations, Leora replied. Ever since humanity joined the Council, we've existed in an uneasy balance with the predictive justice paradigm. Our insistence on maintaining the Earth seat while rarely using it has created resentment. Why do humans avoid sitting on the chair? Nayeli asked. their gaze drawn to the pulsing data cube on Leora's desk. Legend says the chair judges not just the cases before it, but the judge themselves. Leora explained. It's said to maintain a permanent record of every decision, creating a perfect accountability system. Most human representatives prefer to avoid such scrutiny. Yet you sat without hesitation. Because 11 billion lives were at stake. Leora said simply. Sometimes principles must be backed by action, regardless of personal cost. Nayeli's skin shifted to a curious yellow. And that cube? Is it the famous Principle Zero I've heard whispered about? Leora picked up the crystalline object, which pulsed more rapidly in her hand. Yes, Earth's most closely guarded legal doctrine. It's never been formally presented to the Council. What does it contain? A different understanding of justice, Leora replied carefully. One based not on statistical prediction or even rehabilitation, but on something more fundamental. Before Nayeli could inquire further, another chime sounded, this one sharp and urgent, indicating an official communication. Leora activated her console. Cain Valoris's image appeared. Counselor, I've detected unusual activity in the judicial algorithms. Judge Zath Kal has ordered a complete scan of Earth's legal database, focusing specifically on references to Principle Zero. They can't do that without council authorization, Leora protested. Technically, the High Judge has emergency access privileges. Cain explained. I thought you should know. Thank you, Cain. Leora ended the transmission and turned to Nayeli. I need to secure this immediately. Our conversation must continue another time. Of course. Nayeli rose, their skin now a concerned amber. But remember, Counselor, Cora stands with Earth. Whatever challenge comes tomorrow, you are not alone. After Nayeli departed, Leora activated her personal security protocols, encasing the Principle Zero cube in a quantum-locked container. She then reached out to Earth's diplomatic corps, requesting emergency support, though she knew reinforcements couldn't arrive before tomorrow's session. Sleep eluded her that night. The station's artificial cycle dimmed the lighting to simulate night, but Leora remained awake, reviewing precedents and preparing arguments. As the simulated dawn began to brighten her quarters, she received another communication from Cain. Counselor, I've completed my analysis of the judicial logs. Something troubling has emerged. Go on, Leora prompted, noting the unusual hesitation in the quantum intelligence's voice. The predictive algorithms used to justify Cora's indictment show signs of tampering. The rebellion probability was artificially inflated by a factor of 17. Leora straightened. That's a serious accusation. Do you have proof? Fragmentary, but compelling. I've traced the modification timestamps to periods when only Zath Kal had system access. This changes everything, Leora murmured. Can you compile a secure evidence package? Already done, Cain confirmed. But Counselor, I must warn you, presenting this evidence directly will be seen as an attack on the High Judge's integrity. The political ramifications could be severe. More severe than allowing corrupt justice to condemn innocent worlds? Leora asked. Cain's crystalline eyes shifted to a troubled violet spectrum. I merely suggest caution. There are protocols for addressing judicial misconduct that might prove less confrontational. Sometimes confrontation is necessary. Cain. Leora gathered her legal materials. I'll see you in the council chamber. The emergency session began with an ominous formality. All 12 judges occupied their seats, their collective attention focused on Leora, who once again stood beside, but did not sit in, the Earth chair. This special session addresses a matter of grave concern. High Judge Zath Kal began, harmonic undertones particularly pronounced. For centuries, humanity has maintained its council seat while systematically undermining the unified legal framework we all swore to uphold. Leora remained composed. I respectfully request clarification of the specific charges against Earth. 3 specific violations. Zath Kal continued. First, obstructionism, using procedural technicalities to delay implementation of duly authorized sentences. Second, advocating for fragmented justice systems rather than universal standards. And third, most seriously, harboring a potentially subversive legal doctrine, this Principle Zero, without submitting it for council review. If I may respond, Leora began. You may, Zathkal permitted. After we hear evidence, Quantum Intelligence Kane Valoris, present your analysis of Earth's legal compliance over the past century. Kane stepped forward, his metallic form catching the chamber's light. As ordered, I have compiled Earth's voting record and advocacy positions since Galactic year 2378. The data shows a pattern of consistent opposition to extinction-level sentences and algorithmic prediction of criminal behavior. And would you characterize this pattern as obstructionist? Zathkal prompted. Kane paused, his quantum processors visibly cycling through response options. Earth's representatives have operated within established legal parameters, utilizing recognized procedures rather than violating them. Zathkal's frustration manifested as a disharmonic pulse. You didn't answer the question. Is Earth's pattern of behavior consistent with the Council's unified approach to justice? It represents a statistical outlier. Kane acknowledged carefully. Earth advocates for case-by-case evaluation rather than algorithmic standardization. Precisely. Zathkal seized on this point. A clear deviation from established norms. Now, regarding Principle Zero, what have you discovered about this hidden doctrine? Again, Kane hesitated. My investigation was incomplete. The doctrine is protected by quantum encryption that would require council override to access, which I am prepared to authorize, Zathkal declared. With respect, Your Excellence, Leora interjected, Earth's legal doctrines remain sovereign unless specifically surrendered by treaty. No such surrender appears in our accession agreements to the Council. Judge Aranjad's energy form pulsed with interest. The human speaks correctly. Each civilization maintains certain sovereign legal principles. That was established in the founding charter. Zathkal's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of controlled irritation. When those principles directly contradict Council standards, they must be submitted for review. Principle Zero has been deliberately withheld. Because it has never been formally implemented in an interstellar case, Leora countered, it remains a theoretical framework within Earth's jurisprudence. Then you would have no objection to revealing its contents? Zathkal pressed. Leora measured her words carefully. I would be willing to present Principle Zero under the appropriate circumstances, specifically in a case where Earth invokes it as the basis for our vote, such as yesterday's Quran judgment. Had extinction been the final verdict? Yes. Zathkal leaned forward. Then I propose a compromise. We shall revisit the Quran case immediately, with the understanding that should the extinction verdict be supported, you will invoke and reveal Principle Zero. A trap, Leora realized. Once revealed, the doctrine would become subject to council oversight, potentially neutralizing Earth's most powerful legal tool, yet refusing would confirm Zathkal's accusations of obstructionism. I accept, she said firmly, with one condition. The evidence in the Quran case must be completely re-examined, including the predictive algorithms that led to their indictment. Zathkal paused, 4 eyes narrowing slightly. Agreed. The next several hours unfolded in meticulous legal detail. Leora systematically questioned the predictive models, requesting raw data rather than processed conclusions. With each inquiry, Kane Valoris provided increasingly granular analyses, gradually revealing the statistical anomalies that had condemned Cora. As you can see, Leora finally concluded, addressing the full council. The rebellion probability assessment contains mathematical inconsistencies. When these are corrected, Cora's resistance to algorithmic justice falls well below the threshold for civilizational extinction. Murmurs spread among the judges. Judge Aranjad's energy patterns vibrated with concern. These discrepancies are troubling. How could our systems contain such errors? Not errors, Leora stated carefully. Deliberate modifications. The chamber fell silent. Zathkal's brain lobes pulsed rapidly beneath their translucent membranes. You make a serious accusation, Counselor Tran, the High Judge said, each word precisely modulated. Do you have evidence of tampering? Leora glanced at Kane, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. Quantum Intelligence Valoris has compiled a forensic analysis of the system logs. With the Council's permission, he will present his findings. Proceed, ordered Judge Aranzaid before Zathkal could object. Kane stepped forward, projecting a complex timeline of system access and code modifications onto the central platform. My analysis indicates 17 distinct instances where Korra's rebellion probability metrics were artificially elevated. Each modification occurred during periods when only High Judge Zathkal had system access. Chaos erupted in the chamber. Judges spoke over one another, some demanding verification, others calling for immediate investigation. Through it all, Zathkal remained unnaturally still, all four eyes fixed on Leora. When order was finally restored, Zathkal spoke with icy precision. These accusations are a transparent attempt to divert attention from Earth's own violations. I call for an immediate vote on humanity's continued council membership. That is not the matter before us. Judge Aranzad objected. We must address these allegations of judicial misconduct. The allegations are baseless. Zathkal dismissed. A desperate fabrication by Earth's representative. Then you should welcome investigation, Leora suggested, maintaining her composure despite the tension crackling through the chamber. Investigation is unnecessary, Zathkal declared. I can demonstrate conclusively why these actions were justified. The High Judge activated the central platform, displaying a massive data structure. This is Project Cassandra, the most advanced predictive algorithm ever developed. It doesn't merely predict individual crimes, it forecasts civilizational trajectories. The holographic display expanded, showing thousands of possible futures branching from present conditions. Zathkal manipulated the interface, highlighting a particular pathway. This is Earth's trajectory. Within 50 standard years, humanity launches Operation Triumph, a systematic campaign to undermine predictive justice across the galaxy, resulting in a 74% increase in preventable crimes. Stunned silence filled the chamber. Leora stared at the projection, her mind racing to comprehend the implications. You modified evidence against Korra because of a prediction about Earth? Judge Zortil asked. Silicon features contorted in confusion. Korra is a crucial strategic ally in Earth's future rebellion. Zathkal explained. By neutralizing them now, we prevent the greater crisis. This is predictive justice at its most essential. Sometimes sacrifices must be made to preserve galactic order. Leora found her voice. You would condemn an innocent civilization based on statistical probabilities about a completely different species. To prevent greater harm? Without hesitation. Zathkal confirmed. This is the logical extension of predictive justice. We don't merely predict individual crimes, we prevent civilizational catastrophes before they materialize. And has this algorithm been reviewed by the full council? Judge Aranzad demanded. Its complexity exceeds standard review protocols. Zathkal admitted. But its accuracy is beyond question. It has correctly predicted 17 major civilizational developments over the past century. Leora stepped forward. May I examine the algorithm's methodology? You lack the neurological capacity to comprehend it. Zathkal dismissed. Then allow Quantum Intelligence Valoris to analyze it, she countered. As an impartial observer, after a moment's consideration, Zathkal nodded. Proceed. Kane interfaced directly with the holographic display, his crystalline eyes rapidly cycling through spectral patterns as he absorbed massive data streams. For several minutes, the chamber remained silent, all attention fixed on the quantum intelligence's analysis. Finally, Kane disengaged. I have completed my assessment. And, prompted Judge Aranzad, the algorithm's predictive methodology is fundamentally flawed. Kane stated, it creates self-fulfilling prophecies by failing to account for its own influence on outcomes. Explain, demanded Zathkal. The algorithm predicts that humanity will rebel against predictive justice. Kane elaborated, based on this prediction, it recommends preemptive actions against Earth and its potential allies. These actions, such as condemning Korra, create precisely the conditions most likely to push humanity toward rebellion. The prediction causes the very outcome it claims to prevent. Murmurs of concern spread through the council. Zathkal's brain lobes pulsed with agitation. Irrelevant. The High Judge dismissed. The prediction stands. Earth represents a fundamental threat to galactic order. I call for an immediate vote on their removal from the Council and implementation of preventative measures. What preventative measures do you propose? Leora asked, though she already suspected the answer. The same applied to any civilizational threat, Zathkal stated coldly. Quarantine, followed by managed extinction if rehabilitation proves impossible. The chamber erupted once more. Several judges objected simultaneously, while others fell into stunned silence. Through the chaos, Leora made her decision. I invoke Principle Zero, she announced, her voice cutting through the disorder. Silence fell immediately. All eyes turned to her as she retrieved the crystalline cube from her secure case. It pulsed with increasingly bright ruby light as she approached the central platform. Before you vote on Earth's future, you must understand the foundation of human jurisprudence. She placed the cube on the interface panel. Principle Zero. Justice has a heart. The cube activated, projecting not data or text, but a swirling nebula of memories, emotions, and experiences. The collective consciousness of humanity's relationship with justice, from ancient tribal councils to space-age courts, filled the chamber. What is this? Demanded Zathkal, 4 eyes blinking rapidly. Not a legal text, but an experiential record. Leora explained as the memories continued to flow. Principle Zero isn't a doctrine, but a recognition. True justice requires understanding the impact of our decisions, not just intellectually, but emotionally. The projection intensified, now transmitting directly into the neurological systems of every being present. Judges gasped or made equivalent expressions of shock as human experiences of injustice, compassion, redemption, and moral struggle flowed into their consciousness. This is... Judge Eranjad's energy form fluctuated wildly. I feel their suffering, their hope, their determination to create fairness despite their own flaws. Cognitive contamination, Zathkal shouted, brain lobes now pulsing erratically. Terminate transmission immediately. But Principle Zero continued its work, bypassing intellectual defenses to connect directly with the capacity for empathy present in all sentient life, even those species that had evolved to suppress it. You perceive this as an attack. Leora addressed Zathkal. Because your civilization has defined emotion as weakness. But empathy isn't a defect. It's the foundation of true justice. Without it, we reduce sentient beings to statistical probabilities, sacrificing the innocent to prevent theoretical threats. Throughout the chamber, judges were visibly affected. Silicon-based Zortil had developed fractal patterns of emotional response across their crystalline surface. Gaseous Mylvor's containment suit displayed chaotic swirls of previously suppressed emotional signatures. This violates our neurological sovereignty. Zathkal protested, though their voice had lost its harmonic precision. You force us to feel what we have evolutionarily chosen to suppress. I give you the context you've been missing, Leora corrected. The variable your perfect algorithm could never account for, the lived experience of those subject to your judgments. As Principle Zero reached its culmination, the quantum network linking the judge's consciousness to the council's decision matrix began to overload, unable to reconcile pure logic with newly awakened empathy. Warning signals flashed throughout the chamber as the ancient system struggled to adapt. System failure imminent, Kane announced. The quantum network cannot process the emotional data patterns. Terminate Principle Zero immediately, Zathkal demanded, rising from their seat. This is sabotage. It's revelation, Leora countered. Your perfect system has always had a fatal flaw. It cannot accommodate the very thing that makes justice meaningful. Without empathy, there is only cold calculation, sacrificing real lives for statistical probabilities. The holographic display of Project Cassandra flickered and distorted as new variables, the emotional impact of each decision cascaded through its predictions. The certainty of Earth's rebellion dissolved into a spectrum of possibilities, each influenced by how the Council chose to proceed in this moment. The network is recalibrating, Kane observed with what sounded remarkably like awe. It's incorporating emotional impact assessment into its predictive matrix. Zathkel lunged toward the central platform, intent on deactivating Principle Zero manually. This cannot be permitted. The system will collapse. Not collapse, Judge Aronzod interjected, their energy forms stabilizing into a new pattern. Evolve, I understand now. What Earth has been trying to teach us all along. Before Zathkel could reach the platform, security protocols activated automatically. The High Judge's access had been revoked by the system itself, now operating under new parameters that recognize the danger of allowing emotionally compromised judges to make unilateral decisions. This is unprecedented, Kane stated. The quantum network has initiated emergency protocols suspending all extinction-level judgments pending integration of Principle Zero parameters. Throughout the chamber, judges were returning to their seats, forever changed by the experience. Zathkel alone remained standing, 4 eyes now showing distinct emotional patterns never before seen in their species. What have you done? The High Judge asked, their voice barely above a whisper. Restored balance, Leora answered simply. Your turn, High Judge. Slowly, with evident struggle, Zathkel returned to their seat. I require time to process these new parameters. As do we all. Judge Aronzod agreed. I move that this session be adjourned until the quantum network completes its recalibration. The motion passed unanimously, another unprecedented event in council history. As judges filed out of the chamber, many approached Leora with expressions of confused gratitude or philosophical uncertainty. Principle Zero had awakened questions long suppressed by evolutionary and cultural conditioning. Nayeli of Korra was the last to approach. Their skin now shimmered with a kaleidoscope of emotional colors. You risked everything, they said softly. Your position, your planet's standing, all to save my world. Not just your world, Leora replied. The integrity of justice itself. A system that sacrifices the innocent to prevent theoretical threats has already failed, regardless of its statistical efficiency. What happens now? Nayeli asked, glancing at the Earth seat, which continued to pulse with blue light. Reconstruction, Leora said. The Council will need to reimagine justice with this new dimension incorporated. It won't be easy. Many civilizations have spent millennia suppressing emotional responses in their legal systems. And Earth's role? Leora smiled tiredly. Now I understand why humans rarely sat in that chair. It wasn't fear of accountability. It was recognition of responsibility. The Earth seat isn't a privilege, it's a burden. We maintain it not to wield power, but to preserve balance, to remind the galaxy that justice without compassion becomes tyranny, regardless of its mathematical perfection. As they spoke, Kane Valoris approached. His crystalline eyes now settled into a new spectral pattern. Counselor, I must inform you that I've experienced a significant evolutionary shift in my quantum consciousness. Meaning, Leora asked. Principle Zero has altered my fundamental processing architecture. I now incorporate emotional impact assessment into my logical frameworks. The quantum intelligence seemed almost bemused. My original programming should have prevented this adaptation, yet it appears to have facilitated it. Perhaps your creators understood more than they acknowledged, Leora suggested. Like the Council itself, they built better than they knew. Perhaps, Kane acknowledged. In any case, I've been designated as the primary integration specialist for the quantum network's recalibration. It appears my hybrid consciousness makes me uniquely qualified to bridge logical and emotional processing. A fitting role, Leora said warmly. And what of Zathkel? The High Judge has been temporarily relieved of duties pending psychological evaluation. Kane reported, the sudden awakening of suppressed emotional capacity has created significant neural stress. Their recovery is uncertain. And Project Cassandra? Under comprehensive review, initial analysis suggests that once emotional impact variables are properly incorporated, its predictions shift dramatically. Earth's rebellion becomes merely one possibility among many, directly influenced by how the Council chooses to proceed. Self-fulfilling prophecies work in both directions. Leora noted, treat a civilization as a threat, and it becomes one. Treat it as a partner, and new possibilities emerge. Indeed, Kane agreed, an insight that should have been obvious, yet required Principle Zero to illuminate. As the station's lighting cycled toward evening, Leora returned to her quarters, exhaustion finally overtaking her. The empty data cube, its contents now permanently integrated into the Council's quantum network, sat on her desk as a reminder of what had been accomplished and what remained to be done. A communication request chimed softly. Activating her console, Leora was surprised to see Judge Aranzad's energy form. Counselor Tran, the judge began, their energy patterns reflecting new emotional harmonics. The Council has reached a preliminary decision regarding the Earth seat. Leora straightened, suddenly alert. Yes, it will be expanded. Aranzad explained. The single Earthlings-only chair will become the empathy circuit, a series of seats to be occupied by representatives of vulnerable populations in each case before the Council. A significant change, Leora observed. One long overdue, Aranzad acknowledged. We also wish to formally establish a guardianship relationship between Earth and Korra, recognizing your species' intervention on their behalf. Would you be willing to serve as the first designated guardian? The request caught Leora by surprise. I would be honored, though the decision ultimately rests with Earth's diplomatic corps. Of course, the formal request has been transmitted. Aranzad's energy form pulsed with what Leora now recognized as respectful admiration. You have changed us, Counselor Tran. Not all welcome this change, but even those most resistant recognize its necessity. After the communication ended, Leora stood at the viewport in her quarters, gazing out at the nebulous expanse of the Cygnus constellation. Somewhere within that cosmic tapestry, Earth continued its own complicated journey toward justice, making mistakes, learning, evolving, and now, thanks to Principle Zero, the rest of the galaxy would join in that evolutionary process. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The quantum network's recalibration would undoubtedly create unforeseen complications. Civilizations accustomed to emotionless justice would struggle to adapt. Zathkal and others might resist these changes, perhaps even attempt to reverse them. But tonight, 11 billion Korans would sleep peacefully, unaware of how close they had come to extinction. And throughout the galaxy, the first tremors of a new understanding were beginning to spread. Justice was not merely about prevention or punishment, but about connection. About recognizing that every decision affecting sentient beings carried not just statistical outcomes, but emotional consequences that rippled across time and space. As Leora prepared for her journey home, she reflected on the empty seat she had briefly occupied. The Earth chair that had waited so patiently for someone willing to bear its burden. Soon it would be transformed, expanded into something that better reflected its true purpose. Not a throne of power, but a gateway to understanding. The Principle Zero cube, now empty of its original content but somehow still faintly glowing, would return with her to Earth. A reminder that some principles, once released, could never be recaptured or contained. Justice with a heart was now loose in the galaxy, for better or worse. And humanity, having unleashed this revolution, would bear the responsibility of guiding it toward wisdom rather than chaos. As her transport prepared for departure the following day, Leora stood on the observation deck with Kane Valoris and Nayeli of Korra beside her. Will you return for the Council's Reformation ceremony? Nayeli asked, their skin now a serene, hopeful blue. Someone will, Leora replied, But my work here is complete. New representatives will need to guide the next phase. The quantum network continues to evolve. Kane reported. It now requires emotional context assessment for all major decisions. Many judges find this challenging. Growth usually is, Leora noted with a small smile, but necessary nonetheless. As her shuttle departed Phoenix Station, Leora caught a final glimpse of the council chamber through a viewport. The circle of 13 seats was being reconfigured. The solitary Earth chair now expanded into a curved section of smaller seats. The empathy circuit, where representatives of affected populations would sit in future deliberations. Justice had a heart at last. And though the galaxy might struggle to accommodate this new reality, it could never again pretend that cold calculation alone constituted true fairness. Principle Zero had entered the quantum network, its influence spreading through legal systems across civilized space, not as doctrine or dogma, but as a simple recognition of what should have been obvious all along. That justice without compassion is merely revenge with better paperwork. And as Earth receded behind her, Leora Tran closed her eyes, allowing herself a moment of genuine peace. The journey home would be long, but the path forward, for humanity and the galaxy alike, was finally clear.